April 28, 1988, Aloha Airlines Flight 243, a routine inter-island flight in Hawaii, was set to make a short hop from Hilo to Honolulu. For the 89 passengers and 6 crew members on board, this was just another day in paradise. The skies were clear, the journey was smooth, and the Boeing 737 had flown this route countless times before. But what started as a routine flight quickly spiraled into one of the most horrifying and unbelievable incidents in aviation history. What unfolded in the skies above Hawaii would shock the world and change aviation safety forever. The Boeing 737 lifted off from Hilo International Airport at 1:25 p.m. Everything seemed normal as the aircraft climbed into the sky, reaching its cruising altitude of 24,000 feet. The captain, Robert Schornsteimer, and First Officer Mimi Tompkins settled into the familiar rhythm of the short flight. They had made this trip hundreds of times, but at 1:48 p.m., just 23 minutes into the flight, disaster struck without warning. A loud bang echoed through the cabin. Before anyone could react, a massive section of the fuselage above the cabin suddenly ripped away, exposing the passengers and crew to the open sky. In an instant, the tranquil Hawaiian afternoon turned into a nightmare. The sound of rushing wind filled the cabin. Debris flew everywhere, and terrified passengers clung to their seats as the plane shook violently. Flight attendant Clarabelle C.B. Lansing, who had been standing near the front of the plane, was instantly sucked out of the gaping hole. She was never found. The roof of the aircraft, from the cockpit to just behind the first-class section, was gone, leaving the passengers in the front rows completely exposed to the elements. Winds over 300 miles per hour and temperatures below freezing. The pilots immediately took control, but they faced an almost impossible situation. They had lost a huge section of the fuselage, the plane was depressurizing rapidly, and communication systems were failing. The captain took the plane into a rapid descent, trying to get to a lower altitude where the air pressure would be more stable. The oxygen masks had deployed, but in the chaos and with the roof gone, many passengers couldn't reach them. Some passengers struggled to breathe, while others clung desperately to their seats, fully exposed to the sky. Through all of this, the remaining flight attendants, despite the chaos and loss of one of their own, moved through the cabin, helping passengers, securing seats, and doing everything they could to maintain some form of order. Captain Schornsteimer's priority was to get the crippled plane down as quickly and safely as possible. The nearest airport was Kahului on the island of Maui. The aircraft was severely damaged, but thanks to the captain's extraordinary skill, he managed to bring the plane into a safe descent. As the pilots approached the runway, the damaged aircraft shook violently. The pilots knew that the plane was in a critical state. Any wrong move could cause a complete collapse. At 1:58 p.m., just 10 minutes after the fuselage rupture, Flight 243 touched down in Maui. Miraculously, despite the catastrophic damage to the plane, 94 of the 95 people on board survived. The only fatality was flight attendant C.B. Lansing, who had been pulled from the plane at the moment of the rupture. Passengers, covered in blood and debris, stumbled out of the aircraft in shock. Some had been injured by flying debris or the violent decompression, but most were alive, thanks to the skill of the crew. What went wrong? In the wake of the incident, the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, launched an immediate investigation to determine how this could have happened. How could a routine flight end up with a gaping hole in the roof of the plane? The NTSB's final report revealed a chilling truth. The aircraft, a Boeing 737, had been in service for 19 years and had completed over 89,000 flight cycles, far more than the average aircraft. Over time, the stress of repeated takeoffs, landings, and pressurization cycles had caused numerous tiny cracks to form in the fuselage. These cracks had gone unnoticed, despite regular maintenance inspections. Key findings: Boeing's safety design. Boeing had incorporated tear stops into the fuselage every 25 centimeters to prevent a small crack from spreading. These were designed to confine any rupture to a 10 by 10-inch section. But in the case of Flight 243, the fuselage had so many cracks that the tear stops were ineffective. The tiny cracks merged under the pressure at cruising altitude, causing the massive section of the fuselage to tear away all at once. Aloha Airlines maintenance failures. The investigation revealed that Aloha Airlines had failed to properly supervise its maintenance program. The inspections were superficial, and the quality control measures were inadequate. The cracks that should have been caught were missed entirely. FAA oversight lapses. The Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, was also criticized. The FAA had issued directives for inspecting aging aircraft, but the NTSB found that they hadn't enforced proper inspection of all the critical joints and seams on older aircraft. Boeing had recommended more thorough inspections, but the FAA didn't mandate them. Aloha Airlines lied about safety testing. Aloha Airlines claimed to have used a testing technique called the eddy current method, which could detect microscopic cracks. But the investigation revealed that they had not performed these tests, despite telling authorities that they had. Miraculously, despite the terrifying mid-air rupture, the skill of the crew ensured that 94 passengers and crew members survived. However, the tragic loss of flight attendant C.B. Lansing and the horror of that day remain etched in aviation history. What are your thoughts on this? Comment below. If you want to know why some pilots refuse to fly over specific areas on Earth, then stick here, and I'll see you in the next minute.